Final ending of the big day, part 1 down below. 2 years later. So, for the last 2 years or so we kind of evolved from totally imploded marriage to a slowly normalized relationship. Still no bonding. But we went from a couple years ago sleeping in separate bedrooms, total emotional distance from her, to sleeping in the same bed, to even her being comfortable partially naked around me. We've even gone on a few vacations abroad together. She went back to school to better herself and found work. A big change from being a stay-at-home mom for many years. But through that time her demeanor went from constantly sullen and blue to upbeat and happier. We shared more fun and relaxed moments together. I began to think that we were turning things around. Whenever we would talk about the state of our marriage, she would, however, always regress to the memory of how much she put the marriage before herself throughout that time. She felt she lost herself and sees herself as weak in those years, and that she never wants to become that person again. So, a thought of us being together romantically in the future has never entered her mind. She fully believes that it will never happen and that eventually we will go our separate ways as soon as our youngest is off to college. Now skip to a few weeks ago. She says she's going to a lunch date with some friends and that she shouldn't be long. I try texting her several times to get an update because I'm waiting at home with the kids to see what our plans should be, but she's basically unreachable. I get a little worried because this is not like her to be gone for so long and without contact. Turns out she went to see the manatees in a marina not too far from home and that she was with just one of the 2 friends she originally planned to hang out with. Then a couple weeks later, while at work, she texts me that she's going to grab something where she works and will be home a little later than planned. I text back a little later, concerned because the weather reports show for tornado-type weather and that she should try to get home soon. No replies for about 2 hours. Then she arrives home. I asked her where she went for dinner and she said she went to happy hour, and I asked where. She vaguely alludes to over there, which I kind of pick up on as a little evasive. That night, I'm sitting in our living room and her phone is on the coffee table at my feet. It lights up from a text message and I glance at it. It's from a person we'll call Matt and it says, "Sleep well." I kind of brush it off, but I'm curious. 2 nights later, with her phone on the coffee table, another text lights up the phone. It's from Matt asking, "How's your evening?" I become super suspicious, to say the least. Mind you, we haven't fully reconciled at this point. She hasn't told me she loves me in a romantic way for almost 3 years. Red flags start to come up, and I don't sleep at all that night. 2 days later I ask who Matt is. She explains he is a coworker and a good friend. Even says that he's kind of her confidant at work, and they can just talk so easily. I know, how many red flags can you count? I ask if there's anything else going on that I should worry about. She says no, and I tell her that I am really uncomfortable with her spending time with another man. Given the state of our marriage, such a friendship could be dangerous. She replies, "Noted." This was 2 weeks ago. This past weekend we were in a grocery store and she wanted to send me something from her phone but didn't know how. I asked to see her phone, to which at first, she was hesitant. Finally, she handed me her phone so that I could screen capture what she wanted to send to me and then text it to me. She hovered over me every second I had the phone. When she saw me open up her text messages, she literally yelled, grabbed the phone from me, and tried to shrug me off, saying she had to do something first. Yes, I had every intention to see what her messages were from Matt. When she finally gave back the phone, I went straight to her messages, with her hovering, and saw a string of texts from someone whose initials are most likely that of Matt. They read about a camper van project that he couldn't wait to show her. Prior to this, she did mention that Matt was leaving in March to travel and settle west, and that he wanted to hang out with her and other friends before he left. And on another occasion that a friend bought a camper van and was planning a trip out west. I immediately assume she's talking about Matt. We have another conversation and I tell how strange she acted in the grocery store. She says that it was so weird that I would try and go through her phone. I think to myself, well, it's even weirder that you changed contact name to his initials, probably to throw me off the trail in case he texts you and I might see. She then says, Matt is only a friend and he will remain my friend for as long as can be. I ask flatly, can I trust you? I need to know that I can trust you. I tell her that I believe her to be a principled, moral person with integrity, which I believe. She says there is nothing bad going on. It's only friendship. Now I know I'm coming off as a possessive husband right now. But if our marriage was a happy and healthy one, I probably would have no problem with her having a guy friend. But it is the fact that she is spending time alone with this man and now being clearly secretive about it that concerns me to no end. I honestly don't think it is physical yet, but I can sense the emotions are ramping up now that he will be leaving in a couple of weeks. And I know that every spouse couldn't possibly believe that their so would cheat up until the moment they found out, or even later. It's been a rough couple of years for me. I've been on the outside hoping for reconciliation. She's told me a few times how impressed at the changes that she has seen in me. Yet she sees no future for us together. Do I live a lie for the next 6 years, supporting her and seeing her move on, even romantically? Or do I say see you in live with wreckage? She wants to make no effort at rebuilding our marriage. So, what is the point of living one more day like this? BTW, the money she makes couldn't possibly pay for her own apartment, and affording to pay for one as well as her school wouldn't be feasible either. I'm ready for the beta male remarks and the man the up demands. But I'm at that point now to make a very harsh decision that would cause a lot of heartache for a lot of people. The thought of my youngest son having to go through our divorce breaks my heart. I'm at work typing this and I'm about to lose it. But I can't live this way anymore. It's like I'm a widower living with the ghost of my dead wife. She comes into my life, haunts me, and then drifts away. And then does it again and again. The only glimmer of hope is that my therapist is also working to get her into IC and maybe try and work with her more. She went a while back but stopped going. I think she's very good at compartmentalizing her emotion and simply doesn't want to address some of her deeper issues. Sad, really. Anyway, bring on the abuse. I think I know what I need to do. Comment. It's probably a PA, but you already know that. Personally, if I were in your shoes, I'd probably need proof that it was a PA to file for divorce. Take her phone and run some phone recovery software on it. Or if it's an iPhone, go into the message thread and hit the information button on the upper right-hand corner. That will show the images that were recently sent via text, even if they were deleted. Once you get what you need, divorce her. You'll be much happier moving on from her, and it will be good for you to end the relationship on your terms instead of waiting for the inevitable. You need to start living in separate rooms. Don't do anything with her. Only interact with her about the kids. You need to hit the gym hard, every day. Eat and drink healthy. Time to work on you. Find a new therapist. Find a good attorney and start the divorce. She wants to end this misery too. You both don't have the courage to do it. It will be a hard conversation, but you both will be relieved. Keep the divorce fair and amicable. It will help with the co-parenting, and you guys should be able to be friends later on and be in the same room for life events. You can do this. OP responds. At this point, I don't even want to be concerned with the OM, I just want to let go. It's such a burden. I nearly lost myself a few times. Deep depression. Drinking. I can't go on letting my kids see this and think that life should be this way. I know this will underwhelm everyone here, but we had a long talk tonight. Pretty much told her that if you look at all the evidence, everything points to, at least, Ania. She says she agreed and acted totally naive but still flatly denied. And I said every bit of this relationship with OM is a total disrespect to myself, our kids, and this family. She insisted that boundaries have been set and that nothing has or will happen, and that they only meet in public places, never in private. I explained how much our crappy marriage is already affecting the older kids and how they're protecting the youngest one from it. She agreed and turned sad. I honestly don't think it's physical, but it's headed that way. I told her to look up Limerence and tell me if any of that sounds familiar, and that she's either not being truthful with me, herself, or is in total denial, but she's headed for an E if it's not there yet. She went quiet. I know I look weak as hell. I reached out to a guy from my men's group and he gave some advice on what to do before I went to a divorce attorney. He went through something like this recently with a woman that was full on crazy. He told me to get my financial accounts in order first before I mention anything to her about divorce. I'll be consulting with an attorney in a few days. Look, I have no intention of kicking her to the curb and leaving her out in the cold. She's the mother of my children and I do genuinely care about her. I told her that I can't take this marriage anymore and living a lie like this, even for the sake of our kids. She looked very worried, and I left it at that. That's all I have thus far. Basically, the meltdown was due to deep depression, burnout, and midlife crisis. She blames me and our marriage for taking away her youth and that she wants to experience more. There were suspicions of an affair then, but she literally had no other circles back then other than my friends and school families. She didn't really have any life back then. She saw herself as a weak person, and somehow reconciling would mean she'd be going back to that person. Twisted and sad. She's got a lot of issues that she's not willing to confront. The only good news is that she is finally willing to try going back to a therapist. I'm glad of that for her sake. I have devolved into a weak piece of crap. I've hit rock bottom. I can't explain how much lighter I feel about just thinking about letting her go. Well, we had a fun weekend. I planted a VAR in the wife's car on set because she told me she was going to meet her female coworkers for an evening of bar hopping. I went to hang with a buddy and told him my current woes. Later, when we were both home, I asked what she did with the ladies and she said ate, drank. Yeah, super vague. So, I went to the VAR and, lo and behold, there was evidence that she was with the guy. Nothing physical, just them talking, where he's telling her how much he likes her and that he'll probably never meet anyone like her. Really pouring on the charm. She pretty much rebuked him but did reiterate that she doesn't have feelings for me. Dagger through my heart. Obviously, very upset, I woke her up at 3:30 in the morning and directly confronted her and asked her where she was, and she immediately came clean. I stormed out and spent the rest of the morning at my mother's house, and returned later that morning to our house. We talked for a really long time. She cried, begged for forgiveness, groveled and pleaded that there was no bonding, just talking, and that that's all they ever do. That they had a list of things they wanted to do before he left town for good. Then the conversation steered towards how much she missed us and that the reason she was drawn to him is that he reminds her of me back when we met. Then we both cried and held each other and talked about how we missed each other and reminisced about how great our life was before and wondered if we could ever get that back. She did say that at that moment was the first time she had felt something for me in many years. I know, of course, I told her that what she did to me was so wrong on so many levels. I told her about trust being totally broken and that if I could ever forgive her, I'd have to first really hate her for a really long time. I asked how she could possibly bring so much risk and upheaval into our house and family. She expressed guilt and shame and was crying mostly over how much she knew she hurt me. I will say that this was the first time since she checked out that she has ever seemed open to reconciliation. We both agreed that we let the marriage go on autopilot for a long time even when we saw it heading for the cliff. I told her that we need to step away from the marriage for a while, get our heads straight, learn some skills, and then rebuild our relationship from the ground up. Find a new happy. She said that scared her but was open to the idea. Later in the day I told her that I needed one thing from her to make things better. She knew that I was going to tell her to cut off contact with Opus. She freaked out a bit, asked if she could say goodbye. I said maybe, but I'd have to listen to the conversation to make sure she followed through on it. It's non-negotiable. If she couldn't do this, she could go and be with him. She said that was never the plan and knew that their relationship, at least where could spend time together, had an expiration date. I said it's either me and her in a relationship or nothing at all. This isn't an open marriage. You either stay here and work on the marriage or go. If we still are unable to work things out, then we'll go our separate ways. In the 2+ years that she checked out, we never really worked specifically on the marriage. I just played damage control and attempted to repair what I thought was broken and pretty much lost myself in that process. I know that I cannot believe a single word she says. I know this. She's done so much backpedaling it's very difficult to decipher what is real and what's not. I at least know that everything regarding him could be a bold-faced lie, and that anything she says to me regarding our relationship could be a lie to have her cake and eat it too. I'm going to insist upon total transparency or nothing at all. For the first time I have the power in the relationship and she knows it, and I intend to lead us through this towards reconciliation. If we can't make it work, then at least I know I did everything I could. I know you're all thinking how I could put up with so much bull crap. I believe there's something that can be saved here and so much to lose if we just gave up. That sounds really corny, I know, but that's where I'm at now. Wounded as hell, but still here. So, kind of a side note, we went to an impromptu MC last night. Her idea, not mine. Kind of rehashed everything about our marriage. She got really defensive when she saw that me and the MC were on the same page and kind of teaming up on her. He pointed out that she's going through a midlife crisis and couldn't understand her need to want to leave. Blah, blah, blah. Same old crap. I was pretty much expecting that she was going to reveal a further aspect of her or that we'd end up spinning our wheels about our marriage, her wanting to be independent. It was the latter for sure. Later, after we left and were sitting in the car to leave, I told her that I was really coming to terms with the marriage going under. I was ready for the divorce and kind of relieved to let go of the whole thing. She went quiet and acted scared. We then commenced to talk for another 2 hours in the parking lot about everything. The good times, the bad times. What we did wrong, encouraged each other for things we did right. No animosity whatsoever. Holding hands. Just really open communication. It was really weird. Maybe this is normal. She did say just before we went to bed that she felt like her walls were totally gone for the first time in forever. She even commented that tonight was really great. Later she asked if it had something to do with that. We have both come to terms with letting go and not having the pressure of making the marriage work. I said most likely. Even the next morning, she wanted to keep the conversation going, but we had to get ready to take the kids to work. She's agreed to 6 more MC and IC and attending a women's group. Either way, I'm starting to think ahead to what life apart will be like. She wants to try and commit back to the marriage. Reconciliation. Yes, Pia came to light. She offered NC with OM, access to her phone, emails. Full transparency. Obviously, I'm on high alert. A full 180 out of the blue. Something is afoot. OM was a coworker. Got fired a month ago. Look, I'm not taking this at all at face value. Something is up. I'm trying to figure out what. She seemed very remorseful. She was reluctant to give details, but after fully explaining why I felt I needed to know, she gave a completely detailed timeline as to how the relationship unfolded. She was brutally honest and revealing, much to my discomfort, but I appreciate how transparent she is. I don't expect anyone here to understand why I want to try and reconcile. And honestly, I don't care. The person that I knew before she checked out, compared to the ghost of a person that's been present for the last 3 years, is clearly back in every way. Yes, I have a crapload of doubt and suspicion, and I made that abundantly clear to her. Every action and response are being placed under the highest scrutiny, compared to how she was just a week ago. She's been nearly unashamedly open. It's clear that she'd rather not disclose information, but she does so because she understands it's what I need, and the effort it takes to forgive and try and move forward is superhuman. Any emotion that I feel, I immediately tell her and try to process. Same with her. I'm a couple days short of a month out from D-Day. Mine's a mess. WW has been saying all of the right things, doing all of the right things. For the first week or so after her turnaround, she kept alluding to previous faults in the M. I told her about blame shifting. She oddly hasn't brought anything up since. I've finally come to realize how she manipulates. I called her on that too. I know everybody here warned me. Sorry for not heeding. I'm still a mess emotionally and I'm not ready to make big decisions yet. I am trying to prepare myself for D. I'm allowing my WW a little latitude and insist that she get some IC. She hasn't gotten there yet but says that she will. She tried to explain what was happening to her father, few issues there, and she described it to him as she did something wrong, it was her fault and that we're working it out. I told her that's it, and she immediately alluded to her dad, the previously mentioned problems in our marriage. Blame shifting. I called her out on that too. Expressing remorse. Maybe. Showing remorse. Heck no. Putting her stuff in trash bags and changing the locks is something I cannot do to the mother of my children. She simply has no resources to make it alone just yet. All of her family is abroad and she doesn't have much of a close network of friends to rely on. Her current monthly income would barely cover our groceries. Yes, she's treated me horribly and eviscerated my soul. I have to allow her to at least get to where she could feasibly pay for her own apartment, then I could help out with the rest. Call me weak, but I'm just not that cold-hearted. I'm trying to find a way I can reach her father and give him the heavy details as to why we are in such a precarious state. I believe he and her family have the right to know. I made a promise to him long ago that I would love and protect his daughter. I'm not looking to shame her, but she needs to own up to her crap. I am harboring no more hope for her at this moment. I can see that she is a broken person. How someone I once regarded as so principled could betray her core values like that is still bewildering. A couple weeks ago she was telling me we owe it to ourselves and our families to give it one last try. I don't think she has the heart for that, and I certainly don't have the stomach for it. I've been insisting since D-Day that she should just go with the AP. She insists that was never the plan and that they just weren't meant to be. Oh, really? Never the plan? You had a plan. Did that plan involve destroying the family you love and value? I told her that almost verbatim recently. She said just wasn't thinking. You know what else she said? She said when they were together all she was thinking that wished I could to feel such happiness. At this point they can have each other for all I care. 2 months later. Update. Heading to divorce. She broke NC. Took it underground. I saw a mysterious number with hours of minutes spent talking to it from her number. She claimed she had no idea who it could be. 3 hours over 3 weeks spent talking to this person and she can't remember. Right. Trying to navigate towards an uncontested divorce as quickly and cheaply as possible. Our 12 and 17-year-old will live with me while our oldest goes off to college. Lucky for her. WW moves out. Sorry for not heeding your advice earlier. I was in full denial. No more of that. She hasn't moved out yet. She's in the process of looking. Of course, she only works part-time at the moment and will likely need my help towards her living expenses. I'd love her gonna SP just so me and the kids can begin our process. We haven't told the kids yet. We're going to in a couple weeks after school is finished. I will have a gentle talk with them about my reasons for wanting divorce, infidelity, while she will likely minimize and say it's because we couldn't work things out. She deemed me unsuitable for reconciliation because my emotions were too inconsistent after her affair. I didn't handle the affair in a manner that suited her. I told her family and even talked to her father. They are shunning her. Her father is pleading with me to reconsider. I told him my conditions were no contact, transparency, and honesty. She couldn't meet them, so I chose divorce. Of course, she spun it as if she was making the choice. She's waffling now as we start the process, having second thoughts. I told her this is what she chose. At best, she's feeling guilty now. 2 months later, separation just started. She has that place until mid-September. After that, it's her job to find a place to stay. Meantime, the divorce process will be fast-tracked and filing can't come soon enough. Uncontested divorce. I have primary custody. Kids will remain in the marital house with me and she will have them every other weekend. I need this circus to be over. To be fair, I don't think she's still screwing her P, but I'm almost 100% they're still in contact. So, yeah for sure, which is still a crap sandwich. The bond is strong with this one. I can't prove that they're not screwing. But as far as I know, the has moved out west back in April. Social media confirms that thus far. She told me he told her he'd wait for her and once she's fixed herself, she should go find him. Unicorn land must be grand. She has no plans to leave our area, at least until our youngest has left the nest. I think my WS is an ego kibble addict. I was once passive. Hell, being proactive is a deliberate, exhausting exercise for me right now. But I'm on my way, one step at a time. The denial is strong in her. He's really just a nice guy. Fantasy land is so bright and shiny. I don't want to leave. Never mind the effects this will have on the innocent children. I think she still compartmentalizes her affair from her family. Like the two could never feel the effects of the other. These are the lies she tells herself. And, deep down, I know she sees this. Or at least she's slowly coming to realize it. but she's too cowardly to confront it. So, she blame shifts and deflects and minimizes and gaslights, just like the rest of them. I told her recently that I can't get past seeing her as only a label now lying wayward spouse. It's a terrible mind duck. Her behavior and lies were identical to all the others that I've watched about. Like they all read the same playbook. All I need to complete at this point is my financial affidavit, the parenting plan, and completed and signed. And I have to get together other supporting paperwork. I've got a certification exam to take on Monday, which ends my summer semester. I'll then have free time and the relief of her absence to concentrate on getting everything ready to file. Then I will. I see, but it isn't really helping lately. I feel heavier every time I leave his office. I might take a break from that too or look for someone else. So, I passed WW as she left our neighborhood on her way to her apartment. This is the first night she's sleeping at her new place. I'm alone with the kids for the first time. My WW followed the playbook to a T, and that may have inhibited our recovery. But I'd like to think that a WS that is truly committed to R would be willing to afford me a bit of grace for losing my mind a bit in the few months after her affair. Sadly, she tried to flip it on me and argue that my reaction to her affair could not qualify me for R. How's that for mental gymnastics? She cheats. I freak out. Therefore, I'm unsuitable for R. I picked a real winner. I do not trust her. Even her work lately to figure herself out through IC and reading is still highly suspect. Why now? Are her recent tears shed because of the pain she wrought on her family, or because she realized just how horribly she crapped her own bed? The sucker in me wants to believe the former, but it is likely the latter. I have a few supporting docs I have to gather to officially file for D. My certification exam is tomorrow, so I've been focused on that lately. Once my time is a little freer, I will put a concerted effort into getting everything I need to file, and then I will. If I can get it done this week, I most certainly will. I've known that the marriage was gone for a while now. I was in heavy denial about it. Not anymore. I'm trying to figure what I really want for myself. We're going for an uncontested D. My attorney says it will take 4 to 5 weeks to finalize after filing. Baby steps. I was very much pro R. Plenty of people cautioning me on the hard road ahead that is R, and that my WW was nowhere even close to being a good candidate. And sure enough, her even darker side emerged. And those folks over there helped me see it. But only because I was ready to accept the reality. At that time, I needed both empathy and stern, no-nonsense advice. Does that make me a wussy? Probably. Ultimately, I was looking for hope. But I've since realized just how dangerous that can be towards really moving forward. I glance over the threads I posted here years ago and realize how much time I wasted and how much more pain I have experienced because I held out for hope. I remember members here flatly telling me how painfully codependent and pathetic I was. I just couldn't handle that or confront it at the time. Whatever, I think I'm finally taking steps to get my life back. And to add, it's not as if D is an instant cure-all. In all honesty, I wanted to keep our family as united as possible. I came from a family that has a history of D and unconventional relationships. I didn't want that for mine. So, I was willing to take the hits just as long as I could keep our family together. I realize now how flawed that is. I was afraid of D, the pain of it on our kids, and feeling like I was a colossal failure. At any rate, D isn't just something that you do and then, voila. No more pain from infidelity. It's a decision that will affect our kids for the rest of their lives and will drastically change our dynamic and how we co-parent them. I know that there can be much success after D, and that often kids will thrive in spite of it. I'm going to make sure of that, at least on my end. I think I'm done ranting for the day. Our DD18 knew what was happening. We were hanging out together a few weeks ago and I asked her flatly. She overheard us talking about it over the past few months. I suspected DS12 knew about it, as he does this thing where he sneaks up on me when I'm in my office, ninja style, and stands behind me sometimes minutes at a time before I notice. He's walked up behind me on many occasions while I'm posting here or on C. I don't think he understands what infidelity means, but I'm pretty sure he knows it's wrong. DS17 has no clue, as he's sort of the introvert of the siblings and mostly keeps to himself in his room. WW and I had previously agreed that we would sit them down together and let the kids know what was happening and what was going to happen. Well, last week WW sat them down and told them, without me. She gave them the mom and dad aren't getting along, so we're going to try separating version. I sat them down that same evening and asked them all if mom explained what was happening. The boys nodded yes. DD18 knowingly chimed in, well, she didn't tell us the real reason. So, I explained, when two people get married, they make a promise to love one another and they make a vow to always remain faithful to one another. Mom invited a third person into our marriage and I am not okay with that. So, we thought that some time apart would be good so that we can let our emotions settle down. DS12 simply nodded his head and DS17 said, wow. I also explained that we did have other problems and we were having trouble agreeing on how to settle them. That was it. I'm basically seeing this separation as a pre-D. Hell, maybe that's what my WW's plan was with going along with this scenario. If, however, we are treating this time apart as a time for reflection, letting emotions settle down, to see where we are when she has to move out of that place, that could be a possibility too. But, as you suggest, I'd like it to be a full 6 months. Which means she'd have to find another place and we'd have to figure out how to pay for that. I'd be open to semi-contact, holiday gatherings, etc., but mostly I need time away from her to work on myself and truly figure out what I want for myself. She thinks she'll be moving back into our home in mid-September and maintain the status quo until she can afford to move out. Which sounds like limbo to me. No way to that. She hasn't gone back to IC in the last couple of weeks. Not that IC is a definite sign of working on oneself. But I'm damn sure that her judgment and mindset thus far have not served her well towards being a safe partner for me. And I don't know if that is even in her heart. I'd have to know she is doing work towards reforming herself and wanting to put in real effort towards rebuilding our relationship. At present, I think she's solely interested in preserving her image as that of the not-so-evil wife, mom that did a horrible thing, but how bad could she because her kids and husband still tell her she doesn't feel bad for us. She feels bad at where she has ended up. I've thought hard about R, but at present, I have no idea who I'd be R with. Rather, I don't know or even think I like who this person is that is currently my wife. She's still out of the house. We've got the first of a couple school orientations coming up on Thursday, so I'm going to be seeing her for the first time face-to-face since she moved out. I'm a little anxious. She's been wanting to talk about kid stuff, but in person or on the phone, which I've deflected. I've told her that I don't want her coming with us when I take the kids to drive our DD18 up to move her in for college in 2 weeks. Mentally, I've been waffling back and forth between D-Train, here we come, and but maybe R though. But as each day goes by, D-Train looks brighter, both in my head and heart. I know, bargaining like a fool. Well, social media confirms that a P is on the other side of the country, as was his plan to relocate there. I know she broke NC back in April and lingered there for about 3 more weeks until I found her out but could not confirm. As in, I saw suspicious phone activity, confronted, and then it magically stopped ever since. She's waffling about wanting D or R, I'm over it. The more I think about R with someone that treated me the way she did, especially after D-Day, the more I wanted the old habits end hard and I struggle, but I know what I need to do. I'm getting through the financial affidavit now. It's daunting and depressing at the same time, but I'm pecking away at it. There's lots happening as we prep for the start of the school year for our kiddos. A year later, it's done. Divorce finalized yesterday. I can lay this chapter to rest. Comment. He gave her about a dozen second chances. She dragged her feet all the way until about a few weeks ago she finally signed and gave up. She was trying to hold on to her meal ticket. Since 2014, she wanted to stay in the family as an additional daughter, dating other men, and mom to their kids but not as his wife. She never took responsibility for her infidelity, and blamed him as an equal contributor to their marriage problems when what she did was much worse. Not sure OP ever did anything wrong except love her unconditionally and hang on to hope too long. Her OP skipped town a year or so ago and disappeared out west somewhere. OP responds, more importantly, I didn't lose my kids. I have primary custody of our minor son. She's already started moving out. My only regret is that I didn't listen to the advice I got years ago and divorced her before the infidelity horror show of last year. As far as I can tell, the kids are okay. I'm trying to be as available and honest with them about everything. My comment, they haven't told extended family yet, so they had to pretend everything was status quo over the weekend. I thought he was going to boot her out. Sounds like she's scheduled to move out in January. If she doesn't move out for some reason, she has won and gotten everything she wanted. D, so she can go date other man, still sees her kids 100%. Living in the family home, everybody thinking things are good, and worst of all, OP still supporting her financially and have to see her every day. OP, please find some nice woman to date and make sure XW knows it. Don't let your ex treat you as a plan B, boot her out.